Look, wildfire smoke is just ravaging New York City, Washington, D.C. Depending on when you listen to this, it might not be timely, but if you're listening to it in June of 2023, the big headline is hundreds of wildfires in Canada.
Everywhere. And smoke is everywhere.
Smoke's everywhere. I'm Nick, the Curious Patient.
And I'm Dr. Dummar.
And we're talking about how you can stay healthy when wildfire smoke clouds the air, whether it's from a local fire or something in Canada. We want to keep you safe, keep you well, and maybe do so right now.
I'm down.
On the Be Well Now podcast. How are we doing, everybody, today? By everybody, I mean you.
Oh, me. I'm doing great. Yeah, thank you. I hope everyone else is doing well as well. And thank you for joining us today.
On the Be Well Now podcast. This is a big deal, and you know it's a big deal because the elite news organizations that are based in New York and DC, they'll go wild when it's a weather story local to them, and then the rest of the country knows about it. So, having been in journalism, I just noticed that kind of acutely. Officials issuing warnings about air quality for a broad swath of the country, from New York west to Indiana, as far south of the Carolinas, according to the New York Times. Look, no amount of wildfire smoke is really safe to breathe.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of it in the West, even when the stuff isn't in Canada, right? We have it in Utah, Colorado, California. So this is one of those where I'd like to chat with you, Dr. Ron Dummar, about how we can keep ourselves, our kids safe when we look to the sky and when we can smell it. Particularly in summertime.
Yeah, and being able to anticipate how to keep yourself safe and knowing what to do, right? Knowing what to do in these circumstances when there will be smoke or you will have inhalation of smoke. And it can happen for kids at a camp, right?
Yeah.
Just an outdoor fire or a backyard fireplace. Smoke inhalation can be in a variety of different forms. But we certainly have had it here for a variety of reasons, but recently from all these fires in Canada.
I'm going to just take one line that I found on the internet, and then I'll just totally pass it off.
Let's hear it.
But that smoke is made up of these little tiny particles that burrow into your lungs.
Yep.
And then your bloodstream.
Yes.
That doesn't sound safe or good to me. So, I'm just curious, what's happening when we get this smoke exposure to our bodies?
So, fine particulate matter, right? PM 2.5. There's fine particulate matter, small amounts of particulate that can get lodged in the alveoli of the lungs themselves.
I'm not recording.
No, but this is our audio only version today.
Okay.
Welcome everyone to our audio only version. We usually do YouTube, but this one will not be. I guess we could do YouTube, but just not have us shown still. Be audio only YouTube.
We'll do a different. I'll cut this part out. Well, let's keep talking. So you're talking about particulate matter. If you don't want to start this over, and you want to just keep going, I'll just clap it in.
Okay.
We can leave it off on YouTube. So, reminder to edit this part out. Okay, so you were talking about particulate matter.
Yeah. So particulate matter, it's very, very fine, small particles that can get lodged in the alveoli of the lungs. And this can initiate and elicit inflammation, swelling. If there's already mucus formation, if you're already got prone to asthma, or if you've already got some sort of lung condition like emphysema, COPD, it's even worse because it's just going to aggravate it. There are other things that can cause problems for our body as well, or for the lungs that we inhale. There could be, and often in places there are a variety of different, not just forest fires from the wood itself, but sometimes power lines find their way into there. So we're burning a variety of different materials as well. So you can get a variety of chemicals that become part of that soot and that ash and the smoke that you can breathe in. So you can have a lot of chemical exposure from fire smoke.
So obviously this is not good.
It's not good at all. And again, it elicits a lot of lung issues. It can cause a lot of lung problems. And obviously that's how we breathe. We take air in. We have to take air in, expand the lungs. It's received in the alveoli. It's exchanged and received by our blood, and then our body moves the blood throughout the entire body so that every cell of our body can have oxygen. We don't necessarily breathe oxygen directly through every pore of our body.
So when the air quality is very unhealthy or even unhealthy, this is where you step in and tell me, like, how can I stay? Okay, the conditions around me are out of my control.
Exactly.
I know about air filters, about hydration, like, but what can I do to keep myself healthy if this is happening?
Well, first of all,
do I want to wear a mask? You know, these are questions.
It's important to avoid the smoke as much as possible. So if you're outside and it's completely covered with smoke, or, like DC right now, we've seen those pictures, and smoke is everywhere. We've talked about, filters. Filters are important, making sure that you've replaced the filter in your HVAC system. I've actually seen a lot of people where they don't replace their filters because they're not even aware that they have an HVAC system that requires the changing or exchanging of filters. That can be a problem for asthma in general. So make sure, first of all, that you have a brand new filter, and maybe that you're changing it more regularly, more frequently during this time of smoke.
So how often
outdoors?
Not that I can't just Google this.
You should change it like every 6 months.
Okay.
Guaranteed. You should be changing it about every 6 months. Certain HVAC units will have reminders, and it'll say, you should be changing it. With the new home thermostat units and things, they have a variety of different features that way. But you should be changing it probably every 6 months. And that way it's going to pick up a lot of the particulate matter that would be coming through and into your home for you to breathe, and protecting you essentially from the exterior environment, the outside. But there are also other things that you can do, like your diet, actually nutrition, hydration. Hydration's super important, because if you're already dehydrated and you're in a state of inflammation, you're going to be more prone to having, say, an asthmatic attack or having a histamine reaction to mold exposure, which mold sometimes can be in this smoke that's being moved across as well. So there's a lot of different things that we can take advantage of, dietary wise, even, to support our lungs and support our health. Something like if you have a child or you're caring for someone, and you're noticing that they're having a lot of lung issues or concerns with the exposure to smoke or the environment at large, one thing that you can just do as a very simple thing is feed them a nice warm, or serve them a nice warm tea or warm fluids. Warmth, the warming has a tendency to dilate the bronchioles, to allow them to open. The warm fluid has a tendency to do that. But also what you can do is put them into, say, a nice steam shower, like a nice warming steam shower, so that they're breathing in. And you can put oils in there like frankincense or peppermint and tea tree oil, and have them just breathe those oils and that mint kind of aroma up, and that will help to dilate as well. Making sure that they're up on their vitamin C. Vitamin C helps with antihistamine effect. And so histamine is what is elicited. It's what causes, like when your nose and you're in an environment, you're breathing a lot of dust and pollen and dander from just the environment in general, and people have seasonal allergies. It's the histamine that kicks up in the body that causes the inflammation or the swelling in the nasal passages that makes it real difficult for them to breathe. It also leads to itchy eyes and swelling in and around the eyes. And those are all symptoms, by the way, that you can experience, right? You can have a scratchy throat, like a sore throat. You can have trouble breathing normally, stinging in your eyes, redness or itchiness. These are all things that will tell you, yes, I've been affected, or I'm having symptoms as a result specifically to that exposure. So there was some level of toxicity that you developed as a result of that exposure. Some other symptoms might be actually having an asthma attack. Well, that's a dramatic symptom. Or you could feel overly fatigued, like your body, your immune system's ramped up and working and it's trying to make you rest. You could feel a slight fever, or you could even have an elevated heart rate. So if your heart rate, you feel like your heart beating faster than usual, all of those can be signs that you might have had a toxic exposure as a result of smoke inhalation.
Is it too late after the smoke starts to start dosing up your vitamin C? Like how long does it take for that to change your, okay.
No, so the vitamin C actually can get into the body rather quickly. And vitamin C you can receive it into the body much higher amounts intravenously. But if you're at home, typically you're just going to have the oral option. You don't have the intravenous. There are a lot of IV places around that you could go get an intravenous vitamin C drip. That's certainly an option. But yeah, for the most part, I would start taking about 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C every hour until you reach bowel tolerance. And what that means is your stools will be loose or runny.
But you'd start doing that if there's nasty smoke in the air?
If you have if you're feeling like you have had an exposure.
Like not only is there smoke in the air, but I'm feeling weird about it.
Exactly. So only if you feel like you've had the exposure, so you've had the symptoms of a toxic exposure. If you just have the smoke and you're like, okay, I want to protect myself, I would be taking somewhere between 2,000 and 4,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day.
And then in terms of at-home air filtration, what else can I do?
You can do, they have a variety of options. You can get, there's something I really like that I've utilized in the past and I've had installed. You can get it directly installed. It's called a REMI Halo system. And what it does is it will emit hydrogen peroxide particles. Peroxide particles will fall onto surfaces and disinfect them. It also emits an infrared frequency, a light. And that, between the hydrogen peroxide and the infrared, it will help to clear a lot of the particulate matter from the air so that the air that you're breathing is clear and clean. Okay. So that's one thing. You can also there's a brand called Air Doctor. They do a pretty good job. They have some filtration systems, but they're more portable, so you can move them around from room to room. If you have a child, for instance, who's seeming to be bothered, none of the other kids are, you can move it into their room so that they have some better air quality, at least in their room for that time. I would recommend, we have one of those portable filtration systems in our office as well. I like to keep it here and just turn it on every now and then to make sure that the air is clear and clean and turning over. We obviously do have a commercial HVAC system here where the air is frequent. It's always running. So in your commercial buildings, the air should always be turning because they need that flow in order to maintain a healthy air. You don't want the air to be stagnant because then it can be more susceptible to mold formation and spore growth.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. So if you're outside, what's the right mask to wear? And we're talking about like, it's a nasty stretch in the West or New York or wherever, like wildfire smoke has just changed the game. So we're in this acute time of, what's the mask I might want to wear? Yeah.
So I am a big fan of, for smoke inhalation. Okay. We're not talking about paint chemicals. You can wear a full-on painting mask if you want to, and certainly that would protect you, and it would be a viable option for you. But something as simple as a medical grade mask would be beneficial and certainly suitable, and also allow you to still breathe to a good degree. And so an N95 mask would be good. There's a lot of masks. We ramped up the production during COVID of masks in a significant way. And so one of the standard medical masks would actually be a suitable way of preventing smoke inhalation. Something as simple as having a bandana, always making sure to carry a bandana with you when you go out of the house. And what you can do is you can wet that bandana down a little bit and then put it around above, over the bridge of your nose, and then behind your neck, you'll tie it that way. And then the air, the moisture, will have a tendency to kind of wick or attract some of those particulates and hold them there, rather than just the dry cloth itself. So sometimes even that wet, just a mildly moist bandana can be super beneficial also in the filtration process. But that's acceptable. I would probably use more of the medical grade mask.
Yeah, I used to cover wildfires for, TV news broadcasting. And I've covered wildfires in different states. So I started in Fort Collins, Colorado. We had some major fires there. And then in Seattle, where I was a journalist for a couple of years, we did Eastern Washington. So you'd cross the mountains and you'd end up kind of close to Spokane. I mean, it's totally different than Seattle. But I remember one time we had a hotel we were staying at. It was on a reservation, so it was like a casino. And I mean, they have all kinds of filtration systems in the casino, right? Because of cigarette smoke and everything. But the smoke was so bad in this area that I was in my hotel room and it was so smoky even in the hotel room. And this is a brand new casino, top of the line hotel. I mean, you just couldn't escape it anywhere you went. I remember how bad that felt. And just thinking about the irreversible damage of all that inhalation, and then you think about the firefighters who do this and it's like, thank you, because I wouldn't want to do that. So yeah, folks have made it this far. I think we've given them some good tips. We've kept it nice and punchy and short. Any other final thoughts? Like, smoke is in the air. What do I do? What do I need to know?
Well, one thing that I thought was interesting, it is important to maintain a good, adequate amount of exercise if you have any sort of lung issue or condition at all, because you do want the blood moving. You want your blood moving to be able to empty and clear chemicals. Your body has the ability to detoxify and clear, but you want to be able to support that. So some mild exercise is actually a good idea. You would want to exercise indoor,
right?
Not outdoor. And you wouldn't have to wear a mask indoor if you're exercising. But it is important to avoid certain like moldy and wet environments if you're already exposed or already are prone to, say, asthma, right? And certainly reducing your exposure, like you're saying, to cigarette smoke, other types of smoke, you want to reduce as much as possible, or even chemical inhalations, plastics burning and tires burning, trash heaps, different things like that might be using burn as their option. You want to make sure you're avoiding those as well.
That makes sense. Caffeine.
So the adrenals, here's an interesting point about the adrenals. I'm glad you brought caffeine up. Caffeine can also actually, in small amounts, initiate a bronchodilation, meaning opening of the bronchioles. So it can help you feel like you breathe better, which is good. We want that. But if you have, in a normal stress response, that's what will happen is you'll have your bronchioles dilate. But if you have had repeated stress and stressors over time, your adrenals can be a little fatigued, especially if you've been overly dependent on the adrenal contraction to release norepinephrine and adrenaline, right? So then they can become a little bit sluggish. And if this is sluggish or they're a little fatigued, what can happen is you can have a maladaptive response in this instance. So instead of your body actually having this fight or flight response and then dilating the bronchioles, it can actually result in constriction of your bronchioles. So you have to be really careful with, first of all, managing it before you even are come in contact or become confronted with smoke inhalation. You have to make sure that you're not overutilizing your caffeine.
Good stuff. Well, if they want to know more, they can find you online at Community Health and Wellness.
chwheber.com.
Dr. Ron Dummar. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Namaste.
Namaste. Be well now. And if you're around smoke, stay safe and be well.
Be well. It's what's in the news.
Indeed.